Hey. I was going online right now and noticed something. I was actually listening to a little bit of a progressive voice, Sahil Habibi, and a possible. He was discussing a possible AOC 2024 run for president. Now, as you know, I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter through and through. If Bernie Sanders won in 2024, there's no question about it. I'm going to be behind Bernie. I've been a Bernie Sanders supporter for the past 30 years, and that's not about to change. Having that said, I have strong doubts that Bernie Sanders will uh, will run for president in the year 2024. I think he's going to be calling it a day. Probably would not be surprised if he decides not to run for re-election in 2024 for the U.S. Senate, which a U.S. Senate without Bernie Sanders it would be a pretty sad situation. Uh, Having that said, I want to talk about AOC, and I personally refer to her as the Bella Abzug of the early 21st century. And if any of you don't know who Bella Abzug was, she was a congresswoman from New York City, believe in the Queens area. Um, anyway, and she was a strong feminist type and a strong progressive type, actually with socialistic tendencies in a lot of ways. And anyway, she uh, she was very much a polarizing figure in the same way that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a polarizing figure today. And if I may objectify women for a moment, the probably the biggest difference between Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez today and Bella Abzug of yesteryear is that I'm not going to say, well, should sounds terrible, but Bella Abzug was not exactly the most attractive woman around. But no question about it, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez is smoking hot. I mean, I'm sorry, she is. She's beautiful. I mean, she's absolutely just gorgeous. And believe me, as I mean, I just on her ideology alone, she's awesome. But it doesn't hurt the fact that she's beautiful to look at. But anyway, in 2018, she challenged uh, Joe Crowley, who was basically just another redundant corporate Democrat. I believe he was like second to Nancy Pelosi in the leadership of the Democratic Party in the U.S. House of Representatives, and he had. I believe it was like over $30 million that you raised around somewhere around $300,000 and defeated him in the primaries. It was a devastating blow, and it was awesome. It was totally awesome to see him defeated. Well, of course, the primary was the hard part in 2018. The easy part for her afterwards was, in my opinion, actually getting elected. Because let's face it, fucking New York City. I mean, Republicans can get elected in New York City, but it's just a little bit harder than in the other parts of the country. I mean, but anyway, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez tiptoed easily into victory that November, and it was beautiful. Just her taking on the corporate Democrats. Um, I mean, it was just awesome. Just like for example, staging a sit-in at Nancy Pelosi's office. Doing that sit-in, over climate change and things like that. It, just just calling out. I mean, when she went to believe some seminar for elected members of Congress, people who are coming in there for the first time from both parties, and pretty much you had all these lobbyists talking about how they're going to sit there and bribe people, and she basically made that very very public. And of course, the fact that she pretty much on a regular basis pisses off the Republicans and the corporate Democrats. Gosh, for someone like myself, What is there not to love about this person? Well, anyway, I will. I'm going to mildly criticize her in a moment, but even though I am going to speak in glowing praise of her, but I'm also going to engage for a brief moment now in a mild criticism of AOC. During the Democratic primaries in the year 2020, 2019, 2020, she was a little reluctant to support Bernie Sanders at first. And I think that was not exactly one of her better moments. In 2016, she was, even before she even thought about running for Congress, she was very much strongly in support of Bernie Sanders. But she was sort of in the Bernie camp, Elizabeth Warren camp, trying to decide which candidate was better to support. Now, if Bernie Sanders was not in the race, I would be totally sympathetic to the idea of her getting behind Elizabeth Warren. And but at this point, there's no contest when it comes to all the candidates that were running in 2020. No contest. Bernie Sanders was the candidate to support. I know I personally speak highly of Tulsi Gabbard and Andrew Yang because they have something to offer to the conversation. Elizabeth Warren kind of said did, but she kind of backtracked. So she gets major demerit points, in from my perspective. And I put her in the category of the mainstream corporate Democrats. But I would say that maybe in Elizabeth Warren case, she would be one of the better of the mainstream corporate Democrats. Um, anyway, but ultimately, AOC did the right thing, and she did endorse Bernie Sanders. It makes sense for her to endorse Bernie Sanders because Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a member of Democratic Socialists of America, DSA, an organization I'm no stranger to. I'm currently not a member, but I've been a member in the past, in and out of the organization myself over the last 25 years. Anyway, let me continue on. Well, often said that maybe she needed to step into a higher office prior to running for president. I'm still not opposed to that idea, but the whole idea of challenging Schumer, and that would be so beautiful. I mean, ideally, her challenging Chuck Schumer in 2022 would be awesome because Chuck Schumer is a corporate Democrat piece of shit that he is. He's awful. He's absolutely just he's his demeanor is that of a smug asshole. He's a corporate Democrat, and the only thing he's concerned about is his own political legacy and well being. I absolutely despise Chuck Schumer with a high passion, and it would be so beautiful to see Chuck Schumer be primaried and the totality of such a primary fight having AOC as the winner. It would just be so wonderful. Um, Having that said, he's an institution. He's 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 not going to sit there and allow AOC easily to defeat him. A person that would be easier to defeat would be Kristen Gillibrand because she's not quite as powerful as Chuck Schumer. But the problem with Kristen Gillibrand in primarying her is that her politics is rather decent. I mean, she started out as a blue dog corporate style Democrat in the mold of the Democratic Leadership Council when she was a member of Congress. But somehow along the way, just like Ed Markey in Massachusetts, moving leftward, Kirsten Gillibrand actually significantly moved leftward. When she, in the very early part of the primaries last year, I would have actually argued she was one of the better of the Democrats. I'm surprised she didn't get any further than she did because she seemed to passionately and sincerely be for for Medicare for all and for the free college and for the United States getting out of these damn wars abroad. So just she's basically she's a good lady. If I lived in New York, I'd be proud to proclaim Kristen Gillibrand as my U.S. senator. Not so much Chuck Schumer. Anyway, let me continue here. So AOC has to decide what to do, and I thought I'm all for her running for president. I was like, she needs to go and get herself into the U.S. Senate. But now that I think about it and thought about it some more, well, she is basically a successor to Bernie Sanders. She's the only one. Now, having that said, I do have my criticism of AOC. For example, she sort of has a love-hate relationship with Nancy Pelosi. It's actually hate relationship, but she's got to play ball, and I do understand that's how it works in Washington D.C. You have to play ball. Sometimes, sometimes it means getting politically in bed with people that you don't like, and and if she didn't, she would have less influence, and I understand where she's coming from, but for the love of God, there's no reason to be on the View and to defend Nancy Pelosi with things like, "Oh, she's Mama Bear." No, she's not. This woman is worth over $100 million, and with two 12 $13,000 refrigerators right behind her in the kitchen where she could store her precious chocolate. No, 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 no. There is a challenger in San Francisco, and I'm trying to think of his name. I think is hold on one second. I got to type this in to find out what his name is. He's challenging. He's challenging Nancy Pelosi. Hold on a second. What is his name? Let's see. I'm so sorry. Shahid. That's what I thought. Shahid Butcher. If I lived in San Francisco, I know that I would be voting for him over Nancy Pelosi. Now I understand she had to go play ball and endorse Nancy Pelosi. I understand that. I don't like it, but I understand it. But honestly, if Shahid Buttar, who supports Medicare for all and things like that, and I got my criticism of Shahid Buttar. My understanding was that he endorsed Elizabeth Warren over Bernie Sanders. If I'm wrong, I stand corrected, but that's what I'm hearing. So, all even among progressive allies, there's people who are questionable in some of their tactics and everything. As I said, calling her Mama Bear, talking about AOC calling her Mama Bear. I mean, that's just very cringy. Now, I thought that AOC was a bit too harsh on Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. And the reason I say that is over the issue of impeachment. Now, as I said before, with regard to impeachment, my problem with impeaching Donald Trump was that this was prior to the COVID shit that was hitting around. My problem with him, and this would have been a real big problem had COVID not hit, and America would have remained relatively normal with a very abnormal president. But the part of the problem with impeachment was that they're going to go vote for articles of impeachment in the U.S. House. It gets taken to a Republican U.S. Senate. You think Mitch McConnell's going to go and try to have the president removed? Absolutely not. So what happens? There's no trial in the Senate. He's acquitted. Donald Trump is acquitted. He ends up looking like a victim and a hero at the same time. and there's still a slim possibility Donald Trump is going to win on Tuesday. And this just did not help the cause of removing Donald Trump. But there's a misunderstanding when it came to impeachment. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard had her own articles of impeachment she wanted to use against Donald Trump, and such as with the money that the U.S. is getting selling arms to Saudi Arabia, which the the weapons that the Saudi government buys ends up being in Yemen, where there is a genocide against the people of Yemen, and some of that equipment goes to radical jihadis. That's a problem, and you know, and so that's where you get them on. You don't get them on Russiagate. I mean, you don't get them on the Russian collusion, which was bullshit. So, I mean, as much as I love AOC, and I do have a warm spot for Tulsi Gabbard too. Tulsi Gabbard was correct in that regard. Also, the idea of removing Trump when you end up with Vice President Mike Pence, who makes Donald Trump almost look like AOC by comparison. That's how far to the right Mike Pence is. It's a scary thought too. But I thought she was a little bit too hard on her, and she was a little bit too hard on Gabbard also for the ballot harvesting thing that she was trying to work on cleaning up elections. And it's true. I think that Tulsi Gabbard made a mistake with reaching out to Project Veritas, or a group that I don't particularly care for, and because they were out there to go and get Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, and if you remember, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, I mean, being the first Muslim woman elected to Congress from Somalia. I forgot the name of the number of the congressional district in Minnesota. But the thing about it is, she was unfairly smeared as an anti-Semite for basically saying the truth about APAC, American Israeli Political Action Committee, and that they are too influential of an organization in the United States. And so everybody started calling her an anti-Semite, 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 anti-Semite. And you know what? Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard went out of her way to defend Ilhan Omar. So I just want to just put that issue to rest right there. Well, let me get back to AOC. I guess that would be my criticism of AOC, but pretty much an otherwise perfect woman. But there is maybe one more I would have to say, and since I kind of, whether it's a good phrase or not, so a lot of people on the left don't like the term class reductionism. I think that AOC would do better to take more of a class reductionist line, because if she focuses too much on identity politics and on the culture wars, it could be very divisive. I'm not one of those. I'm a civil libertarian. I mean, which means that I support basically pretty much all across the board all these social liberal causes. So anybody who even doubt it, you don't know me very well. But you got to focus on the economics above all else. Above all else, you got to focus on the economics, because it is important that we have Medicare for all. It's important that we rebuild our trade union movement in the United States, which is on the border of not existing anymore. It's gotten to be that bad, and we need to rebuild a class conscious movement. And I think that the overall left would do well to be more on a class reductionist scale than to fight a culture war on issues that the left know damn well, public relation wise, they're going to lose on right away. So anyway, she is a successor to Bernie Sanders, and the fact that she's a successor to Bernie Sanders, as far as I'm concerned, and then let me just say it again: if Bernie Sanders does not run in the year 2024, and AOC decides to run in the year 2024, let me be the first to say, "Hey, sign me up, AOC for president in the year 2024." I will, and it comes close to home. I know I'm going to contradict myself by talking about the identity politics because as a leftist, I don't really go into the identity politics because I think we have income inequality that really needs to be addressed across the board. And if we have more people out of poverty across the board, you're going to see a more tolerant society too in the process. Now, having that said, um, I was going somewhere with this. As I said, sign me up because yes, part of the problem with Bernie Sanders in the year 2020 is that he kind of tried to acclimate himself a little bit too much into the Democratic Party mainstream apparatus, but he also tried to go into Wokesville, which did not work. That 2016 kind of angry demeanor and the outsider demeanor kind of diminished in 2020. And while Bernie Sanders was profoundly the number one awesome candidate to support, and he was cheated again a second time as he was in 2016. He was cheated again a second time. The fact that he kind of tried to acclimate himself into to what's wrong with being a normie Democrat kind of hurt him as well. And just imagine, just watch that Democratic convention a few months ago. AOC did the right thing by nominating Bernie Sanders, and and because she was a campaign surrogate, and they did not really want her to speak at the convention. They rather had never Trumper Republicans speak, and they were kind of embarrassed with AOC. But here's the thing: I was glad that AOC, with time she had, I was glad she utilized it to go and nominate Bernie Sanders for president. And here's the thing: if Joe Biden loses this election Tuesday night or whenever the fuck it gets decided, I'm gonna be here on this channel croaking about how much I told everyone so. And here's the thing. I mean, I'm going to sound very arrogant for what I'm about to say, and I'm sorry about that. No, I'm not. Come to think about it, I'm not sorry about that. Because what I'm about to say is, when it comes to politics, I'm right about a lot of shit that gets dismissed, and then people wonder why progressivism can't get any further. So anyway, AOC is the successor to Bernie, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm ready to support her and get on board with her and support her all the way right now as a member of Congress, as a possible future U.S. Senator, and as a possible presidential candidate in 2024 or 2028 or 2032 or whenever the hell she decides to run. If you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you were triggered, well, tough, but comment anyway. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you that if you have a platform and you're passionate about something, please go ahead and utilize it. And if you don't have a platform, please create one to utilize it, because we're all the muckrakers of our time. And most importantly, hit that subscribe button. Help make this channel grow. And until next time, peace. And Bernie Sanders for president in the year 2024. Or, if he doesn't run, AOC for president in the year 2024. Good day.